relationship with Pluto, whether we know it or not. Pluto is that energy that is always festering under the surface. So it can be the energy of old memories, things that happen to us that we really don't want to deal with. It could be the energy of eroticism or of a secret crush, or the energy of an addiction that keeps tapping you and saying, feed me, feed me. We all are dealing with Pluto, and Pluto represents our shadow side, but it can also represent the energy of transformation and what we are ultimately seeking through things that have hurt us in the past, things that we've used to numb ourselves in the past, and even coping mechanisms like manipulation, or you've heard the popular term gaslighting. Those are all Plutonian things. And I'm talking about this because Pluto is stationing to go direct this week. So eventually, whether you're aware of your Pluto things or not, they will come a knocking. It's like having termites in the wood of your house, and you don't know that termites are there, but eventually you'll know it, and then you're going to have a problem to solve. Now, that's not to say that Pluto always brings us problems, but usually it shows us things that are festering under the surface that are either about to be problematic or have been problematic. The things that we are invited to look at and to examine and try to come up with solutions or healing so that they're no longer under the surface. They're out in the light and we understand them. But this reminds me of a story that a dear friend of mine told me. They had a feeling through most of their lives that they were alone. Even though they were surrounded by people, there was a baseline loneliness and a sense of panic almost that nobody was there. Nobody was ever going to show up. There was a strong sense of disconnection within the framework of who they were. And they had a really hard time placing it because, for all intents and purposes, they had a loving family. They had adults in their life that attended to them when they needed things when they were younger. And then as they got older, they had plenty of good relationships. But yet it was this niggling feeling of being left alone to fend for themselves. And they never understood it until one time they had a conversation with their mother, who, in an offhanded remark, mentioned that they had gone on a vacation right after this person was born. Apparently, the family had a vacation planned and decided with a new infant that it was going to be too much work to bring the infant. And so they left the baby home with a nanny and went on vacation. So you can imagine at a few weeks old, this baby infant being separated from mom and family and left with an unfamiliar adult for a week, only to have the original family come back and carry on as if nothing had happened. So this is a very Plutonian story, and I'm sharing it because this is the kind of thing that can live within our psyche, within our spirit for years and years, really creating some havoc, right? Like working on different parts of us, creating emotional responses and creating ways that we relate to the world that we can't explain. And then one day, Pluto knocks on our door and drags us down into the underworld so that we can see what has been going on. And once we see it, then we are expected on some level to work to solve the problem, work to transform and reclaim our power. So this person, as they begin to piece through this story, has had some big healing around it and really had to come to terms with why that feeling was originated in the first place. And then the feelings around being left and what have you. So I'm bringing this up because Pluto is stationing to go direct this week on Monday. And we're going to talk about it. I'm Nafa Perkins of Electra Astrology, and this is my astrology forecast, the path ahead. We're talking about October 13th through the 19th of 2025. By the way, I just released a new offering. It's very cool. This is my style. As you guys know, I have my series called Awakening with Astrology, which is on YouTube. I've also released the episodes on Star Narratives, the podcast, where I'm going through all of the facets of the sun signs. And this new offering is called the Celestial Year, and it's where you and I get together once a month and we talk about how each of the sun signs shows up in your life, in your chart, your gifts, your challenges with this particular energy, and we get into it. And I am so excited to have this as an offering. It also means that we get to work together continuously for an entire year, which is one of my favorite ways to work with people because that's when we get the really deep work. That's when you make the connections that are deeper than just an astrology reading where you pop in for an hour, you hear a bunch of information, and then you retain the tidbits, but not necessarily all of it. So this is a longer, slower way to work together where you're really getting the gist and you're getting the transformation and you're diving down into some of those deep, dark parts of you that you haven't explored. So check that out. I'm going to put the link below in the box. It's called the Celestial Year. You can also find more info on that on electraastrology.com. So let's look at the charts. Like I said, we're looking here at Pluto stationing to go direct in the sign of Aquarius. Pluto tasks us with a certain version of transformation. Of course, we all have Pluto in our charts, and I'm going to get into a lot more of the Pluto stuff when we go into Scorpio season, which is coming up really quick. But Pluto asks us to do some transformation. Pluto in retrograde means that we have to go back through and piece through a lot of the stuff that we have been through in the past 6 months. Now that it's stationing direct, it means that there are new doorways opening where we get to explore some new territory. In this case, we're looking at the sign of Aquarius, and Aquarius is related to innovation, to bringing new, fresh energy into the scene. However, it's still ruled by Saturn. So in the example of the house that has the termites, just because you discover termites in your house, you can't just knock the whole house down, or you wouldn't want to. You look to solve the problem of the termites by fortifying what you already have, or by taking the measures to make what you're working with better, right? How do we get rid of termites while still maintaining the integrity of our home? And so that is the Aquarius energy. It says you're still bound to the confines of how, in this case, the collective, how people, how your community and your technology and your intelligence, you're still bound by how those things work. But there's something that needs to be different, something that needs to be better. And Pluto says, if you're willing to look at some of the deeper, darker places within you, some of the ways that you know that you're held back and you don't totally understand why, if you're willing to look at those, there is so much innovation on the way. And frankly, we need some innovation. We're all getting a little bit tired of the way that things are. And we have been in such a holding pattern with all of this Pisces energy. And frankly, we're not going to be out of the holding pattern anytime soon, but we can begin to explore small, little, deep, dark innovations. So this reminds me, I had a conversation with my mom about my birth story. And she shared some things with me that I did not realize. When she shared those things with me, it was like aha moments, like, what? Oh, I didn't know that. That makes so much sense. And for me, that is my Pluto stationing to go direct story because knowing some of those details helped me to understand facets of who I am. It uncovered little deep parts within me that had felt foggy, that I wasn't able to fully understand. Now that I know the details of the story, it all makes sense. So I can innovate. I don't feel so held back by what I didn't know. So you might have your own birth story or your own story about when you were a young child or an infant that starts to come into your awareness this week. And if so, pay attention to it because it will give you some information about what Pluto, as it is finally moving forward again and will continue to move forward until 5 degrees of Aquarius this year. And we are now officially beginning to have that quest revealed to us. Now, it's interesting because we also have Venus having just moved into the sign of Libra. Now, Libra is the sign that Venus rules. So Venus is really comfortable here. So I did a talk with Christopher Witecki of Serious Joy this past weekend. We did it on his YouTube channel. We talked about the shadow side of all of the archetypes. You know me, I love a good shadow side, and Pluto is definitely representative of the shadow side. Now, Venus, when we look at the shadow side of Venus in Libra, and the reason that I'm bringing up the shadow side is because Venus has been really busy over the past few months. Venus met with the South Node. Venus also just opposed Saturn and is now opposing Neptune. Then she will go on to make a trine to Uranus and a trine to Pluto. So, because once again, the outer planets are so involved with Venus, which is a personal planet, and we've been watching all of the personal planets just every month get involved in this whole situation where we have four outer planets all within the same approximately 5 degree span. So it's not new. We are certainly accustomed to our Venus energies having to make connections with these spiritual teachers. But as Venus moves into Libra, even though she loves to be in Libra, she still has to, right off the bat, confront the shadow with Neptune. Neptune says, I don't want to know. I don't want to see. I'm putting on my rose colored glasses. I'm having delusions about this relationship. And it's funny because I've been watching that reality show. It's a trash reality show, but it's very interesting. It's called Love is Blind. And it's a storyline where people go into these pods and they date. They're essentially dating people they can't see. They're getting to know people. They're sharing little tidbits about who they are. They're trying to sell themselves and seem as sexy and smart and beautiful and attractive and appealing as possible. And isn't that Venus, especially opposed Neptune? Because basically they're falling in love with a fantasy. They are also presenting themselves as a fantasy. So we want to make sure with our Venus stuff that we're not in la la land saying, you know what? I'm just going to ignore all of the red flags. I'm going to pretend that I'm something that I'm not. I'm going to pretend that they're something that they're not. And I am going to move forward. If you find yourself in that kind of energy, and Venus is relational, it's also related to our money, it's related to our self-worth. And we just had to do some pretty deep shadow work as Venus met with the South Node over the last few weeks around our value and around the idea that our value resides in how much we do for people and how good we are and how much approval we get. So this is a continuation of that lesson. It's not quite over yet. Now, we have some support because Venus is making a trine to Uranus, but Uranus, once again, innovation. Something has to be different. Do not remain in your same old patterns. And listen, this can be patterns around how you get angry, how you argue with your partner, how you advocate for yourself. We get into stagnation when we get annoyed about the same old things, or we have the same old reactions and refusal to really see the truth, not wanting to take responsibility for something, having a stronghold on an opinion or a belief and not wanting to change our minds. Like, this is a strong invitation this week to see yourself through a new lens. Like, who would I be if I wasn't trying to come off as pretty and perfect and attractive and appealing? And who would I be if I wasn't trying to seem right and smart and dependable and get your approval? And who would I be if I didn't have my arms crossed, telling you that you're wrong, I'm right, I'm refusing to change my mind? We want to jump into our Venus energy and say, um, is this working for me? Because right after that, we see Venus on Tuesday make this trine to Pluto. So now Venus, Pluto, and Uranus are all in this grand air trine. The air signs are our relationship signs. So this is a beautiful trine. I mean, trines feel good, especially these planets are kind of saying, like, hey, there's a lot of richness here. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of potential, but don't blow it. Don't do the same old things you've always done. You guys have heard me describe a trine as like three best friends. Okay, three best friends, they are amazing together. They love each other, they have fun, they tease each other, they challenge each other, they push each other to new levels, they can relax with each other. And three best friends can be really problematic because they can peer pressure each other, can push each other to do things that they might not do. They can encourage bad behavior. They can also triangulate where two are ganging up on the other. So when it comes to your relationships this week, be mindful. Just remember that we're in a time of evolving and growing, so you don't want to get stuck in the stagnation. So on the show Love is Blind, everybody is so beautiful and appealing and attractive when they can't see each other. And then they see each other. And it's like, oh, and then they have to actually spend time together. And that never goes very well. And why is that? It's because they put on such a Venus act that now that reality shows up, there's nowhere to go. So we don't want to be doing that in our own lives. We don't want to be putting on our Venus act and then not being able to get through it. We don't want to end up in disaster because then on the 16th, we have the sun in a square to Jupiter. The sun being in Libra, right? Again, the sun is challenging us. When the sun is here, it says, I want you to see who you really are. Yes, you do have these appealing, beautiful qualities about you. And you have learned how to get your needs met by being extra nice and attractive. But is there true balance here? Are you truly being yourself? You are not giving yourself away, are you? You're not pretending to be somebody that you aren't just because you want to look good, are you? That's the question that the Libra sun asks. And in a square to Jupiter, it says, listen, if you're not being yourself, eventually you're going to get ticked off. And if you have put on an act for so long, it's going to lead to resentment. So think about all the times in your life where you have been easygoing, affable. You've agreed to help somebody. You've agreed to do what they wanted to do. It's been fine. It's been great. Yeah, it feels great. Harmony, ease, and flow. Eventually, you get to a point with those people or that person where you might want your way. You might want for them to let you choose, and they don't want to, and you get annoyed. And you're like, but all the times that I've agreed to do what you wanted to do, and now why can't we do what I want to do? That is where Jupiter in Cancer squares the Libra sun, and we go, uh-oh, uh-oh, I'm mad. Uh-oh, I have big emotions about this. Uh-oh, I feel resentful. And the thing with Cancer as an archetype, Cancer is ruling by attending. Let me give you something so that I can get something in return. And Libra is ruling by being nice. Let me be nice to you so that I can get something in return. So when we're giving to get, usually doesn't end well because we might not get. And then we've given. And then we have a storyline of resentment. So the less that we're in la la fantasy land, just presenting the very best, most beautiful parts of ourselves, the better. We want to be as real as possible. We want to be advocating for ourselves and saying yes to what we want and saying no to what we don't want, because that keeps that resentment storyline at bay, because we're looking for the truth here. So the whole storyline here with Pluto being in Aquarius is we as a collective are learning about conformity. We're learning about what we do in order to fit in order to feel safe, and the expectations that we have that other people act a certain way, or other people conform, or other people boost us up so that we feel safe. And what we're uncovering here, doing this Pluto work of looking at the dark side, is we're saying, oh, my safety actually isn't dependent on how you perceive me. My safety, my security is not dependent on how much I follow, on how attractive I am, on how beautiful I am, on what I say. I have to honor what is right and true for me, and I have to show up at the table as my very unique self, because that's how we make a change. When we're each honoring who we are, not from a place of narcissism, like, look at me, I'm so special. This is who I am. No, that's a completely different energy. The energy that we're working to show up as is, hi, I'm here. This is what I have to offer. These are my specialties. How can I be of assistance? So we're learning about that. And this week is a great week to practice. Just a few hours after that, the sun makes an opposition to Chiron. The sun is so personal. You know, the sun is the very center point for all of us. It's our heart. So anything that's impacting our heart is going to impact our whole system. Anything that's impacting the sun is going to impact our whole day. When the sun is squaring Jupiter and then it's making an opposition to Chiron, and we're up against all of this Venus stuff where we're looking at our worth and our value and how we show up. And then we have Pluto saying, hey, there's more to the story. Like there's just a lot that we're all contending with. And Chiron comes along and says, oh, so there are some wounds of identity here. Any places where you have sold yourself out or been too accommodating, that starts to show itself here as well. When we are just continuously acting out our patterns and doing the same old thing, there's no room for vibrancy. There's no room for a fresh and creative energy to show up. This is part of why we love to travel and we love to take classes and we love to do new things because it opens us up to newness and freshness. The encouragement is to look around your life and say, like, what needs to be different here? I am so accustomed to acting out these patterns or to having these feelings or having this baseline of unease or this annoyance at this person. And the energy is saying, don't get stalled out there. Don't get stalled out in your old habits and patterns. Switch some stuff up. Take action on it. Don't just talk about it. So we're also looking here on Friday at Mars, making this sextile and trine to the nodes. Mars is the energy of action. It's the energy of precision, especially in Scorpio. It says, let's do it. Like, let's get out of the comfort zone. Let's stop having this same old argument. Let's stop acting out this same old toxic dynamic and let's switch it up. So, one thing, if we go back to the Love is Blind example, these people are acting out these stereotypical roles. Let me attract you, let me sell myself, let me buy into this fantasy of what love and romance and marriage is. Yes, that's their starting point. And yes, they're probably pulling on the old ways that they have grown to know how to present themselves and the fairy tales about love and the old ideas of what love means. Yes. But as they progress through this and they have to face these Plutonian shadows, they are going to grow. This experience will change them in some way. And that's what's happening for all of us. We're walking through this energy that feels really tricky and feels like, oh God. I mean, everybody that I talk to is like, what is going on? Like, why does it feel so hard right now? But the truth is, like, every time something feels hard, we are invited to look at it and say, well, what could be different? What would I change and how would I change? And Mars in this connection with the nodes is like, change it then. Do it differently. Create different memories. Create different dynamics. Stop getting mad about the same old thing. Stop worrying about pleasing the same old person in the same old way because nobody is going to make these changes for you. This is us saying, I want to do it differently. And if you don't know how to do it differently, that's okay too. You can just say, I want to do it differently. And maybe my guides, angels, God can help direct me. On the 18th, Saturday, we're looking at Venus making this opposition to Ceres. Ceres, I love it when Ceres pops up, and she usually does. Ceres is reminding you that you have to take care of yourself. I was talking to a friend who usually goes to bed around 10 at night. She was out. She didn't end up going to bed until 1 and spent the whole rest of the day just feeling awful. And she was putting it together like, as much as I want to be young and fun and out until all hours of the night, because that's what I did in my 20s, I can't do that anymore because it throws me off. And when I miss sleep, then I wake up and I'm depressed and I'm anxious. And when we're talking about fantasy, right, and thinking about like, I want to be somebody that has fun, I want to be somebody that can just live my life on my terms. Like, yes, we all do want that on some level. And then we have this body, this physical body that we're riding around on this planet in that has special requirements. And we want to honor that. It's like driving a car, like you have to put gas in your car, you have to change the oil in your car. Otherwise, you're going to deal with problems that you don't want to deal with. So, through all of this, Ceres says, don't forget to take care of yourself. Don't forget to get enough sleep, drink enough water, make sure that you are dressed appropriately for the weather, because that really is the foundation and the baseline of being able to ride this energy. And the energy is so uncomfortable. And there's so much direction in this energy that says, you don't like it, change it. but also that says, don't get too carried away because you don't have as much power as you think. So it's this conflicting energy that says, change what you can, allow what you can't, and practice presence through all of it. Practice being the witness, paying attention to the stories, the tidbits, the information that comes your way so that when something important happens, you can get what you need from it, while also allowing what is not necessary to just keep on flowing. So there's a lot. It's very tricky. There's a lot of moving parts. And guess what? You can do it. You're totally here for it. It's what you opted to do when you came onto this planet in this body. And finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the sun here in this quincunx aspect to Saturn. Saturn is another reminder that says, low and slow. Rome wasn't built in a day. All of this self discovery, all of these moving pieces, there is nothing that needs to be done quickly or perfectly. We are in learning mode. We are mastering our skill. So that means we're just practicing. We're looking, we got to see what we're doing, and then we got to figure out how to change it. And we have to allow ourselves time. Time is the great magic wand that heals, that teaches, that eventually brings us to where we're supposed to be. All right, I hope that was helpful, and I will see you all for Astrology for Awakening. We are doing Libra into Scorpio this week, I believe.